I want to create a depth of field effect. So I have a new composition, and I'll do that with text now. So I'll type, for example, After Effects, but I want this to be in 3D, right? So I'm gonna make this a 3D layer. When I make it a 3D layer, it means that I can add the camera and shoot this from a different angle. So if I choose Layer, New Camera, 35 millimeters. All right, now if I go up here, when I go to my rotation tool, next to that I have the Orbit Camera tool. So if I click on it, I can actually rotate my view in 3D like this. Okay, so actually I'm gonna have several of these text layers. So I have After Effects, and then I'm gonna have something else, let's say Animation, and I'll have another one, let's say called Motion Graphics. Okay, of course I can change the color and everything. Now I want to see how this is aligned in 3D. So for that, I'm gonna go from one view to two views, and I will zoom in. So if I select one of them, I can actually move it in the z-axis. Remember, the z-axis is the axis of the camera. So the closer the object to the camera is, the closer I have to put it in the z-axis. Y is up and down, and X is sideways. All right? So here, I see that whenever I'm pushing this closer to the camera, let's zoom out a little bit. There's the camera here. So whenever I'm pushing this closer to the camera, it's going to get bigger. I can also move it up. Now to be able to move it up, I'm going to go to Position. So I'll hit P, and there's the Y-axis, which I can play with. And you see now that it's actually bigger. It's not bigger, but it's closer to the camera because that's now a 3D environment. And now it looks bigger because of the perspective. So that's the motion graphics. If I play with the z-axis now, you see I can put it further behind or closer. Okay, I'm gonna actually undo a few steps so that it goes back to the same level, and all three of them I'm gonna put them at the same level, right? And the only difference between them is gonna be the z-axis. So motion graphics, I'm gonna put it behind, and then I'll go to Animation, hit P, and I'll put the animation in between the two, and then I have After Effects, hit P, and After Effects is the closest to the camera. So I'll select this one and also move it in X so that it's a bit more aligned. Now if I go to my Camera Orbit tool, I can actually see these in 3D right now. So now I want to animate the camera moving in or in between or whatever, and have one of them be in focus and the rest be blurry. But that's not a fake effect, it's a real effect. So I'm not going to apply a blur effect, no. I have a depth of field function for the camera that I have to use. So I open the camera and open camera options, and here I have depth of field which is set to off. So I'm going to set it to on. So here I need to do something to specify the focus distance and the blur level and the aperture. So if I increase the blur level now, I'm going to see that it's only After Effects that's actually in focus, while the rest is blurry. But if I look closely, I see that animation is less blurry than motion graphics because of the distance. Let's actually exaggerate the effect a little bit by moving this further back. So in the z-axis, but not y, I will move this further back, and then I see that it's much blurrier than animation. So let's take animation and also move it further, animation from down here. Okay, so now if we take back the camera tool and go like this, we're going to see that After Effects is in focus. If I go to my zoom and I zoom in like this, I will see that everything gets blurry because I'm not in a focus area. Okay, so I'm going to undo that. Now, what is the focus area? Actually, it's the focus distance, which is here. So if I play with that, instead of After Effects being in focus, it's animation that's going to be in focus. And if I go beyond, I'm going to have motion graphics to be in focus. And you can see this clearer from here. So you see that you can create many special effects with that feature. And it's especially nice whenever you move the camera from one to the other. So I'm going to reduce the focus distance so that it's a bit closer to the camera. And what I would do actually is animate the position of the camera moving around the scene. So far, if I reduce that even more, let's say to 800, everything is out of focus. Everything is out of focus. What I need to do is animate the position of the camera. If I open the transform, I have two things that I can animate: the position of the camera and also the position of the interest of the camera, which is called the target, or the target, which is called the interest of the camera. Okay, if I take my views to 4 views, all right, I can actually move the camera myself like this manually. So the point of interest is where the camera is looking. Let's reduce the depth of field blurriness. So that it's not too exaggerated. Let's set it to 400. All right. So if I take my point of interest, it's where the camera is looking. So if I go like this and I change in X, Y, and Z, remember X is the horizontal position, Y is the vertical position, and Z is the depth position. All right. If I take my actual position, I'm keeping the point of interest in place, and I'm changing the position of the camera, right? Up and down and sideways. So all of these can be animated. Let's start to animate this. I'm going to move the camera out at the beginning so that nothing is focused. So let's say -3000 in Z. So I have this blur at the beginning. So I'll animate the point of interest, the position for now. And I have keyframes. I'll go to 2 seconds later, and I'll set this, say, to -500. All right, and I will move the point of interest up a little bit. All right, so I'll move to a value where I see After Effects, but the rest is blurry. And then, after I did that, I want to rotate around. So I zoomed in, but then I want to rotate around. So I'll move the time, say, to 3 seconds, and I'll move the X position of the camera like this. Okay, let's have one view. So I zoomed in. All right. At any time, I can adjust the focus distance, and I can actually animate it just to make sure that I have something visible, properly visible at the beginning. So decrease that a little bit. Okay, so around 670 is a good value at this stage. So I'm back, and then I go like this. And let's go back to the position of the camera where we have the keyframes. So press Shift to hold on to this keyframe and actually move this a bit more to have more rotations. Then we can go say to 4 seconds, and we're gonna move the interest so that we can go between the two. All right, but I want to keep this position here so I can make a copy of this keyframe and paste it there. Right, so that I go like this, and then I go like that, while at the same time I'm zooming in. Right, and also change the X position so that I have a clearer view from here. So you see that we are creating 3D effects at the same time using depth of field. And I keep going until my animation is done. So if I play it now, and remember that at any time you can animate the depth of field blur and the focus distance to get exactly objects appearing focused.